Educational charity or religious cult? After an inquiry exposes years of abuse at two independent London schools, former pupils tell us for the first time about their ordeals. Young children beaten about the head, punched in the stomach, hit with cricket bats. The findings of an unprecedented independent inquiry into the horrific abuses at two schools in London, St James's and St Vedast. In the 70s and 80s, schools run by the School of Economic Science, thought by some to be an educational charity and by others to be a cult. Now based in West London, the school's current heads claim they're dealing with the wounds of the past. But Channel 4 News has learned that 3 teachers from the time of the inquiry are still working there. And several parents of current pupils have told us they've now removed their children from St James because of concerns about SES. This exclusive report by our social affairs correspondent, Victoria MacDonald.
One of the teachers actually just dragged me into a room and just started basically beating me up.
And there is a balance in any good education of love and reason, and of love and discipline. And I think perhaps there were occasions when teachers were rather overzealous in trying to apply that balance.
You never know what's coming next. You know, being hit with cricket bats, having cricket balls thrown at you when you weren't looking.
Gathered together for the first time in decades, former pupils of private schools St James and St Vedast, all of whom claim to have either been physically and mentally abused or to have witnessed it while at these schools between 1975 and 1985.
I was witness to a whole catalogue of abuse, really. There were public beatings with cricket bats, ropes, rulers. I saw people thrown across classrooms, thrown into walls, punched in the face, struck around the head. That happened to me. I've got particularly painful memories of that.
A couple of years ago, former pupils started chatting on the internet, sharing their experiences of the harsh regime. Current parents began to ask questions, forcing the governors of the remaining schools, St James Junior and the senior boys and girls, to take the unprecedented step of holding an independent inquiry into the allegations.
This was the first time the governors had really heard of all of this. There was the need to bring about some reconciliation with our former pupils, and so we were really inspired, I think, by the Archbishop Desmond Tutu book, No Future Without Forgiveness, who speaks of establish the truth first as a lead-up to reconciliation.
Chaired by James Townend QC, the findings just published are divided into 2. One part has been made public, the second remains confidential, naming teachers involved in the beatings. In his findings, Mr Townend states,
I am satisfied that several boys were subjected to rough handling. They were criminally assaulted by being punched in the face or in the stomach, cuffed violently about the head, had blackboard rubbers thrown at them, causing injury in some cases, had cricket balls thrown at them violently when they were not looking at the thrower, and were struck with the end of a gym rope. Other students were kicked, struck from behind, slapped about the face, thrown across a classroom. Whatever the provocation, nothing could justify this mistreatment. It was clearly unreasonable and criminal.
A boy in my class got punished in front of us, and the way that was done was that he had his trousers taken down and he was hit with his own shoe. So from the age of 4, my first week at school, I was aware that this was going to be the kind of climate.
But these were not, and still are not, just ordinary schools. Once based here in North London and Kensington, they were founded by the School of Economic Science, a little-known organisation described by its proponents as an educational charity and by its detractors as a cult. A difficult philosophy to describe, it's a mixture of Eastern and Western scriptures. Children are taught to meditate, followers are given a secret mantra to chant.
As children from a very young age, we were told that it was our duty to return to what they called the absolute, and that to do this we had to become fully realised. And to become fully realised we had to be conscious at all times, and that if we daydreamed excessively, if we showed emotions or will, then we were being condemned to an endless cycle of death followed by reincarnation.
Although the headmaster said this was the first time the governors had heard of the complaints, the schools were actually at the centre of allegations about their punishment regimes in 1983. Newspaper articles and a book were published, and meetings were held with parents, which David Boddy himself attended.